talk gaming, hacking, and family on this, the first episode of Hacker Gamer. All right, in the virtual studio today with me, we have the one and only Dave Kennedy.
Hey there, everybody. Thanks for having me on. My name is Dave Kennedy. I'm the founder and CEO of TrustedSec and Binary Defense. I'm really excited about this episode because I get to talk about gaming, hacking, and everything else in between, which are two big parts of my life. If you look at my left-hand side here, got my TrustedSec tattoo. Binary there represents 2012 when the company was started, and over here I have a Destiny tattoo representing my gaming. So big part of my life, and I look forward to talking about it.
Excellent, very cool. I didn't realize you had the Destiny tattoo as well. That's awesome.
Yeah, this represents so there's three different types of symbols in Destiny. This one represents Titan, which is the more the tank class that you get in the Destiny, the more tanky type one. There's warlocks and hunters, and so this one was Destiny, which is the character that I've always played since Destiny 1.
So I guess that leads me to my first question. What's your favorite game? Did you say it's Destiny?
So it's a tough question. So overall, it's Destiny, but the problem is that about 6 months ago, Destiny split from Activision, and when they split with Activision, the content just plummeted. I mean, there just was nothing going on. Just they went back to a lot of the old things that Destiny 1 wasn't doing very well. They got into because of the lack of content, they got into some really big seasonal like grind type things where you have to basically just grind and spend thousands of hours just trying to get certain things, and it really went away from kind of the Destiny focus. And so they lost a lot of their player base over the past 6 months. I think something statistic like it was like 85% of their player base just left Destiny, and so they just had a release yesterday. Where it seemed pretty substantial, where they're going through their roadmap of what's going to happen starting in September, and it looks really amazing, and I think it's going to suck me back in. So as of 6 months ago, I really haven't been playing Destiny as much. I'd still say it's overall definitely my favorite game. We go through a little bit of a rough patch right now with everything that's been going on, but it looks really awesome. Like they're bringing back a lot of the old raids from Destiny 1. So, from Destiny 1, they're bringing back like the Vault of Glass, which is a really famous raid, one of the first raids that came out in Destiny. They're bringing that into these essentially like downloadable content type things where you can download them onto your system and you can use that as additional raids that you can bring into the game. They're coming out with a ton of new content, new raids. They're listening to everybody that was really upset with the whole thing. So I'm really excited about where Destiny's heading. So Destiny's right now my overall favorite game. But I would also say that my current favorite game of what I like playing is one called Hunt Showdown. Mm-hmm. And it's think of it as kind of like Apex Fortnite on steroids. It's not a kid's game by any stretch, but basically you go into this large map. It's an extremely large map, and you spawn in with players, either randoms or people that you play with, and it's PvP and PvE. So you're in this map, and it's one of the most sound intensive games I've ever played in my life, where every sound makes a difference. Branches cracking, birds chirping, the sound of glass breaking. You can tell general locations of where people are at and do ambushes and things like that based on sound. It's very sound heavy. So every time you make a shot, that shot is going to ricochet, and you're going to be able to tell, hey, it's coming from the northwest or it's coming from the east. And so you can kind of navigate towards that way where there are teammates and players. But your whole purpose is to basically banish a boss, which takes about 10 minutes. And while you're banishing the boss, all these other players are converging onto the location that you're at, and you have to kind of fortify it and put traps up and, glance out the window here and there. And then there's just big PvP battles where you have, 3, 4, 5 groups all just trying to kill each other and get the bounties and extract the bounties. And it's just a fun game. It's really intense. It's a sweaty, game where you're continuously trying to listen for things and trying to use all of your senses to kind of get it going. And one of the ones that I've been really playing with a lot of friends lately.
Now, do you play with a headset typically, so that way you can get that kind of surround sound? You hear the branch crack in the background. Yeah, I have
to. So that game you have to play with a headset. You cannot play that game without a headset.
Right.
Because the sound is so critical to your success in that game. Like you'll be crouched on a wall, and you'll hear somebody to your left walking across the wall, and that they're over there. Mm-hmm. And you can shoot through walls and stuff like that, if it's wood. And so, the sound becomes a really important part. So I actually bought a brand new headset to go and use that because the sound quality is good. And you don't want to use the 7.1, you want to use the 5.1 because 7.1 is more of an artificial sound portion. It's not as accurate. So you want to use 5.1 for it, which is perfect for triangulation of where people are based on sound.
That is too cool. Now, I assume you're a PC player, but you could also do console?
Yeah, I have an Xbox, pretty much an Xbox all the way. I had a PlayStation for a little while, never got into it.
Okay.
Sorry, I see your PS4, PS3 up there, PS4 stuff up there, but never got into the PS side. I was always an Xbox person, and so my kids play Xbox, I play Xbox. Mostly on the Xbox side, I play like NBA 2K. I'll play Fortnite with my kids sometimes, some Battlefront with my kids, but mostly PC. I was very heavy console player for my entire life pretty much. I never actually played games very much on PC, other than when I was kind of growing up as a kid.
Right.
And I switched over to PC about 4 years ago, and I've never looked back. I will never go back to a console for the most part.
Do you feel like, I'm kind of an old school PC gamer myself. Do you feel that it's, especially for FPS, it's much easier to use a keyboard and mouse?
Yeah.
For accuracy and strafing and things like that? Yeah.
So it's funny, when I first converted over from Xbox to PC, there's a Xbox controller adapter where you can still use your Xbox controller with your PC. And I had not used my mouse, and I'm also, by the way, left-handed. So I had to basically retrain myself to use the PC right-handed because it's just more efficient that way. You can remap everything and mess with it, but it's honestly more efficient by learning right and left. And so for the first year I switched from Xbox to PC, I was still using an Xbox controller, and I was just getting destroyed by everybody. There's nothing. You can just move so much faster and so much more accurately with the mouse and the keyboard than you can with a controller. So I ended up eventually just taking the plunge and going down to a controller. So for the past 3 years, I've been using a keyboard, and I will never go back to a controller again.
Very cool. Now, do you do couch gaming? Do you have like the PC hooked up to your TV, or do you prefer sitting in the chair in the office?
Yeah. So the setup that I have is I have a movie theater room that I built when I first moved house in my basement. Okay.
Oh, that's too cool.
And so I it has like those nice little lounge couches and everything, or lounge chairs in it, and the theater seating chairs. And that's where I play all my games on an actual projector in a theater. It's a 60 FPS projector. So I get the FPS counts. It's at 4K, and it just takes over the whole screen. It's amazing to play. Now, there's some pros and cons to that. So when you're playing on a decent sized screen, the movement you have for a mouse from here to here is distance wise not as much. It feels like, but on the big screen, you kind of have to use a little bit more peripheral to actually go and do. So I'd say I'm not as efficient as I am on an actual desk, and I use the desk here to play sometimes. I have a gaming monitor here that I'll play on, but I do prefer to play downstairs in the basement in the theater and play video games there.
So what are some of your favorite gaming memories? Did you do a lot of raiding in Destiny, and have any favorite memories with that, or?
Yeah, so I for the longest time I was actually like what they call like Diamond Tier 4 or 5 or something like that, which is like there's only like 3% of the Destiny population or 2% Destiny population. I was one of the top raiders with my clan. We were one of the top raiding clans in Destiny. We went for day 0 raids, trying to complete it before anybody else did. Never did it, by the way. We never beat all those, but we were close. We were close in a couple times.
Right.
I have over, I think in Destiny 2, I have over 350 raids, I think. In Destiny 2 alone, and in Destiny 1, I'd say I probably have half of that. So I definitely have been playing more with Destiny 2 growing up as a kid, games were a big impact on my life because I came from more of a lower income class family, and they moved from job to job to job, and so I never really got to make a lot of great friends, in different schools. So I go from school to school to school to school to school. And so video games for me and online friends were kind of my community. And that's kind of where I homed a lot of my efforts in. And I remember playing before a lot of the graphic-based games. I used to play Trade Wars and Tellarena. They were what are called multi-user dimensions or MUDs that were all text-based games that you'd play. So you type north, kill whatever, scan, and you'd have macros. And there used to be this program called ZMud, and I used to play all the time. It was like a kind of a GUI that would go on top of your mudding, so you can use like your mouse and arrow keys to move left and right and scan. Use the delete key for scan, and then bash is a different alias. And so I got really good with keyboards and quickness of that because of a lot of those muds. But I used to spend hours and hours and hours playing that. I eventually ended up modding a couple of them. There was a game called Lands of Chaos that I was a mod on for a number of years, where I took over. That's how I ended up learning how to program in C. Was having access to the source and basically going in and building out new levels and new dungeons and things like that, all in C for the community. We had about 400 players at the time, and so that was a lot of fun doing that. And then I was into Doom, Quake, EverQuest. I played a lot of EverQuest kind of growing up. I had a level 50 druid at the time, and it was funny because I remember I ended up getting one of the rarest things, and it was called a mana stone at the time, which was something that would extract your health and give you mana. Mm-hmm. And they ended up removing it from the game where you couldn't get it anymore. And I remember as a kid, I was like maybe 16 or something like that, and I sold it to somebody online for like $3,000 cash. And I remember I got $3,000 in cash. And I'm like, what am I going to do with this? Let's go blow it on jeans. Let's go blow it on, whatever, and the $3,000, it was a quick lesson learned on money management. But $3,000, then was incredible. It was amazing. It was like the most, so my dad's like, what, you got $3,000 for this? What, seriously? So it was cool. And I used to play a lot with my dad. My dad was a big impact on me growing up and really helped me with where I am today in computers. He would, he's one of those dads that like knew that I navigated to computers. He would teach me how to build computers. He would teach me how to network. He'd teach me, he was a computer guy. And so a lot of my skills and my traits early on, a lot of the foundational pieces really came from him. And we used to game together all the time, which was always awesome playing with your dad. You just had to be careful what you said. You accidentally say like, and you're 16, like, oops, and then and I get grounded, right?
Yeah. So you mentioned gaming with your dad. What sort of games would you play with him? Were you doing like some couch co-op stuff, or what sort of games did you play?
We played a whole bunch of games together. What really funny story with my dad, really fast, is that my dad, when I had a Nintendo. And I'd get new games for like my birthday or Christmas or things like that. And when I get a new game, if they had 2-player on it, especially if it was competitive, my dad would play me and he'd always just smoke me. I mean, just like hands down, know where everything's at, beat me every single time. And I finally found out about 5 years ago why that was. And so what he would do is buy the game like 6 months in advance, and my parents were divorced. And while I was at my mom's house, he would play the video games and beat them, and then repackage them up again and then give them to me for my birthday, so that he was better than me at anything that he played. So good parenting tip right there. I was like, why can't I beat my dad? So we play a lot of games together. We play, a lot of Nintendo games. We play Warcraft and StarCraft together a ton, nice. Command and Conquer, Doom, Quake, EverQuest, all those mud games that we played all together. We played a lot of games together, and I always really enjoyed the times that we had playing with him. I remember for EverQuest, there was a guy in Cleveland called the Ghoul, I think is what it was. Mm-hmm. And it was just like this nutty, like crazy professor guy that, it was kind of like, where they'd show like old B movies, and then, they'd have these skits that they'd do in the middle of it and everything. And I remember, on Fridays and Saturdays, that was kind of our thing, where we'd watch the Ghoul and play video games until like 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning together. And, those are some good times that we had, going through and playing those and doing raids together and that type of stuff. So I had a ton of fun with them, and it was cool that he was just a great parent to be there and kind of support you through that,
Very cool. Yeah, it sounds like you guys had a lot of fun, and there's so many great memories to be had with sitting on the couch and 2-player controllers and seeing the bits on the screen and just kind of forming those memories. That's awesome.
Yeah,
that's incredible. It sounds like gaming definitely did have some sort of impact on you, on your career and getting into InfoSec.
Yeah, for me, it was interesting. I remember when I was I graduated from a place called Bedford High School, which you look at the net median income there is under, I think, $30,000, which the national average is around $50,000. So it's a very poor neighborhood, poor city. Predominantly African American. I think it's like 90% African American, 10% Caucasian. And what was interesting with that school is that technology really wasn't looked upon as something that would grow your career then. So we had an accounting class. I remember they got these brand new computers in, but that was like the only place that had computers. And I figured out how to route all my traffic. It was stupid. They just did bad subnetting. And I figured out how to route my traffic out to the internet so that I could mud while I was in my accounting class and still play my video games while I was in accounting. And I knew nothing about accounting. I don't think I learned anything about balancing financial statements or anything like that in the entire class, because I was always gaming the entire time. But it was funny because I had hooked up everybody else in the classroom with the same thing, and everybody else was just on the internet, browsing the internet. And so most recently, I went back to Bedford and I joined their technology board, and I help out with the Bedford High School technology board. And one of the main program directors for Bedford asked me, like, hey, we're looking at standing up an esports team. I know you're big into gaming. What do you think? And I was like, dude, that's incredible. What can I do to help you? How can I help build this out? And we made a substantial donation to the Esports Gaming Center and created their first Esports Gaming Center, which created 15 scholarship opportunities per year for the students out there. And it's all gaming. It's funny because like the parents came out and they're like, man, I didn't know my kid, can actually play video games at school, and this is a good thing. Like, you have no idea, this industry is booming. There's so much money in there. They can have a chance at a scholarship in college they never had before. Right. And you had parents that are crying because they couldn't afford computers, they couldn't afford to provide for provide that to their kids. And so it was really cool to see that. And one of the funny stories not funny, but great story that that one of the teachers told me was, there was a kid that once he saw that there was an esports gaming, his grades were, he was almost failing out of high school. He had like F's and D's and was basically failing out of high school. But a smart kid, just never applied himself. Sounds just like me, by the way. I failed out of high school and had to go to summer school to graduate. And so he really wanted to join a team and be a part of a team. And he was always one of those like social, reject type of people that would, and he brought all of his grades up to an A, because you have to have good grades to get into the esports team. Brought all of his things up to an A, and the entire team were like cheering him on as he was going through and playing the esports team. So it was a really big motivational boost for him to get into that team. So just those type of stories and things like that, gaming can have a major impact on people's careers, their lives, everything that they do. I definitely look at it as my starting point into why I was interested in computers and why I eventually went into cybersecurity. Gaming was that foundation point for me.
I think for a lot of us it is, yeah. When you talked about modding games and stuff like that, I think for sure that's where a lot of us found our interest, or trying to hack the games, with early things like the Game Genie and different things like that.
Game Genie, remember that.
Really got a lot of us into coding, which then turned into trying to find ways to play games while you're in school and stuff. So definitely, yeah. So then any advice that you would give to maybe the younger audience that's watching that is interested in video games or hacking and wants to get into something like hacking?
For me specifically, the biggest thing that was my motivational factor was finding something that I liked to do. It wasn't a job. It was something that was interesting to me, that I could wrap my head around, that I could figure things out and that I could do. So my first advice is, whether it's hacking or IT or software development or game development or video gaming in general, find out what you truly like to do, what you want to do in life, and home in on that. Make it your career, your hobby. Make it something that you enjoy doing day in and day out, and you'll ultimately be successful, because if you hate going to work every single day and you hate what you do, you're just going to be average at what you do. And it's fine. If you just want to do that, it's fine. But for me, security and hacking, it was just the fun of figuring out a system and breaking into it and figuring out how the people originally made it and how they developed it, and being able to find flaws in that. To me, it was just a ton of fun. So I think for me, find what you like to do, and then home in on that as for your area of expertise of what you're looking at doing.
Very, very cool. That sounds like great advice, and definitely something that I think we can all, even use, as big kids, as we carry about in our careers and stuff. Do you have any upcoming talks or projects or anything that you want to give a shout out to?
So InfoSec World is coming up shortly in the next couple of weeks. I'll be speaking over there. I'll be speaking at Wild West Hacking Fest. I give talks quite a bit, just talking about various security topics. I just gave one recently on the ins and outs of the anti-malware scan interface and the AMSI and how to circumvent and bypass that. Always working on tools. I just published a new version of Unicorn I think it was like a week ago. So always coding, always having fun. I do try to take a balance between video gaming and coding. So I'm not video gaming every single night. I can still flex my brain and do the coding stuff. Yeah. I tell you, when I do a complex project in my mind, around programming or developing something new, I honestly feel like I've used that muscle in my brain and it feels worked out. I don't know if it makes sense, but it feels like I've actually accomplished something, and that my brain was actually doing something as it was intended to do. And those complex things really help you build, what you're doing and how responsive, how fast you can respond to things. So practice makes perfect in anything in life, and hacking is no different, but having fun with what you're doing is the most important.
Absolutely. Well, Dave, hey, I sincerely appreciate you coming on. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's an insight into Hacking Dave, otherwise known as Relic, and some of the great gaming stuff that he does, as well as some of the great stuff he does for the InfoSec community and the hacking community in general.
Hey, so, thank you so much for having me on, Dave, and for doing this. This is awesome. I think it's a great idea, talking about gaming and hacking and how it can impact our lives and what we're doing. I mean, all that's amazing stuff, and people don't realize how big gaming has in a lot of our lives and what we do. And I think it's incredible what you're doing. So thank you for everything as well.
And so, virtual fist bump.
Nope, right there.
All right. Thanks so much.
Appreciate it.
Hey, thanks so much for watching. If you liked what you saw, be sure to leave a comment down in the doobly-doo below. If you want to be featured on Hacker Gamer, hit me up on Twitter, and we'll see about getting you interviewed next. Thanks again, and stay out of trouble.